Well, good Monday morning, everyone. Hope you had a good weekend. Uh, I'm just going to talk briefly about something. Uh, why do I hang out with diabolists? Is the question. Okay, back in 1999, I published the book My Life with Spirits. Okay. Now that was a long time ago, and I was still a pretty young magician and everything else. And part of the book there included this picture of me and David Paul Wilson, who is also wrote under the name S. Jason Black, the author of Urban Voodoo and other things. Now, at the time, he wasn't a published author at all. That came a little bit later in his career. But we were at a party hosted by Doug and Karen James down in San Clemente, and the party was a come as your favorite hero or villain. And for that party, I shaved my head. Well, I should say Constance shaved my head and my beard, and I put on a big floppy homemade bow tie and a brown jacket of some kind. And I came as both my favorite hero and villain, Aleister Crowley, and David here came as the Green Hornet. And that mask doesn't seem very unusual in these days. But anyway, and I included the photo here because David was a dear friend of the family. He's passed away a few years ago. The author with shaved head with noted diabolist S. Jason Black. Okay, David was just starting to write and get published at that time. But anyway, so in 1999, when the book came out, I was invited to speak at a local Newport Beach, like book club kind of thing. Only it was bigger than that. It was sort of a new age, new thought community thing. I think it was called Cutting Edge or Inside Edge or something like that. And it was very nice of them to invite me. And I was talking a little bit about the book, My Life with the Spirits, trying to plug it and everything. And of course, the subject came around to Aleister Crowley and Thelema and things like that, because the book brings up the subject. And of course, I gave sort of my normal review of Aleister Crowley and the fact that everybody must admit that he had a terrible reputation as a black magician and everything else. And I did my very best, as I always do, to disabuse people of the idea that he ate people and killed people but that he was insanely misunderstood, that he was a wild character and everything else, but he wasn't that wild, and that in fact he was a great saint, if you will, in his own odd way, and a very important person in the philosophical evolution of philosophy and religion, I thought, So I gave my normal Crowley speech, and somewhere in that speech, I did the frequently asked questions about Crowley. Was he a Satanist and things like that? And like I always do, what most people thought of as Satan, Satan and Satanists and Satanism back in the 80s and 90s wasn't what we think of that today. People had in mind Rosemary's Baby, and they had something in mind that just didn't exist in objective reality. And so in a true sense of the word, no, Crowley wasn't a Satanist the way you think of the meaning of Satanism and stuff. So I just flat out do what I always do. No, he wasn't that. And but he was misunderstood, and he didn't care if people thought he was, kind of thing. So that being said, it was they were very polite, and they had an incredible, as I recall, they had a little buffet table that was memorable. Anyway, so I did that, and a few weeks later, I got a letter from a guy who had attended. And he identified himself as a Christian. And at the talk, okay, he was one of those people who interrupt you as you're speaking. And said he was a Christian, and the way I was talking about Crowley offended him and stuff like that. So par for the course. Okay, it was new. After all, it was Orange County, California. Anyway, dear Lon, I finished reading your book, My Life with the Spirits, and had a question. You do seem to believe in God and Satan. Now, how he got that idea like that, I don't know. Immediately he starts off with a premise like that. You do seem to believe in God and Satan, and you were taken aback when you thought that Aleister Crowley was a Satanist. Well, that's at first when I was a kid, you know. Your quote, I may have been a wild and crazy heretic, but I sure didn't want to have anything to do with Satanism. And then I go on to explain in the book that the Satanism I was afraid of didn't exist in objective reality. Okay, I digress. I know that different people interpret Crowley in different ways, and since you jumped on the OTO bandwagon after reading Crowley, I assume you don't believe him to be a Satanist. He's making a lot of assumptions. Anyway, I am, however, puzzled by that photo of you with S. Jason Black on page 134. There is no mention of the circumstances of your encounter with him other than the photo stating he is a diabolist. Why are you and he socializing? After your previous comments against Satanism. And on page 101, you are referring to trapping Oribos, the, quote, fiendish devil in a triangle, as well as mentioning on page 93, the 72 spirits of the Goetia are fallen angels. Now, just as if I'm describing them. I'm just, that's what they're considered, okay? Jesus Christ. Do you not apparently associate the fallen followers of Lucifer with him? Satan appears to be persona non grata, but his fellow fallen angels are okay for you to conjure? What gives? Sincerely, Dear, sincerely, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Please forgive me if this sounds rude, but I'm not sure you've carefully read My Life with the Spirits. Otherwise, I can't imagine why you would feel the need to ask these questions. The first thing I'll ask you to remember is that the Lon Milo DuQuette, who so many years ago voiced the opinion, I may have been a wild and crazy heretic, but I sure didn't want anything to do with Satanism, was an uneducated, ill-informed, judgmental, and ignorantly superstitious young man in his 20s. I did not realize at the time that the Satanism I so hysterically feared when I harbored those thoughts was a figment of my own imagination. I assure you that today, if I still thought there really was a God and a devil, as defined by the Roman and Orthodox Christianity and by the majority of modern evangelical Christian thinkers, if I still believed in the interpretation of scriptures that posits original sin, the fall of man, an all-good God of wrath, and an all-evil devil, if I still believed that the human soul was a thing created to be bullied, blackmailed, and browbeat into submission to a particular doctrine, theory, or myth, or narrow-minded spiritual worldview, or else be doomed to eternal torment, then I would most certainly run like the wind away from anything that even sounded like Satanism. Yes, I most definitely believe in God. But I'm pretty sure my concept of God is wildly different than yours. I believe in a God who is so big it can't have an opposite. If that point of view is blasphemous, heretical, and satanic by your definition, then you might be inclined to mislabel me as a Satanist. No, I don't believe Crowley was a Satanist as the term is commonly misunderstood. Yet it is obvious his work and philosophy are incomprehensible to many people. And so because of their inability to find an accurate term, they mislabel it satanic. My understanding of fallen spirits, angels, gods, and demons is also obviously much different than yours. Perhaps, if you would reread the chapter in My Life with the Spirits on the evocation of Oribos, you would understand that the true nature of Goetic evocation could be easily discussed in the vocabulary of psychology. Try to understand in what context I use the term fiendish devil. Who is it I'm really talking about? It's only the art form of evocation that appears to smack of a medieval worldview. Finally, why on earth would you be puzzled by the photo of me with S. Jason Black? Constance and I have a broad assortment of personal friends and professional colleagues, physicians, politicians, writers, magicians, yogis, filmmakers, real estate brokers, psychologists, psychiatrists, sorcerers, publishers, musicians, dancers, artists, right-wing radio show, left-wing activists, recording artists, Christians, Jews, atheists, Thelemites, Buddhists, pagans, and even people who call themselves Satanists. And yes, even S. Jason Black, who is an old and dear family friend. We love these people, and socialize with them whenever we can, not because they subscribe letter for letter to our beliefs or spiritual worldview, but because they are brilliant and unique individuals from whom we learn and who learn from us. Individuals who tolerate us as we tolerate them. We socialize with them because when we do, we enrich our minds, our souls. We make ourselves part of a society that peacefully brings together people with different ideas, different tastes, and different gods, rather than a society whose religion seems to be a poisonous preoccupation with keeping people separated. I hope this has been helpful. Now, fuck you. Love is the law, love under will. Sincerely, Lon. And that's where I'll leave it today. We'll see you tomorrow. Continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.